He's an attorney. Okay.
What's that?
He's an attorney. Okay.
She's an attorney. She does tax property appeals, property taxes. That's her full-time gig now.
Have we
And
set up a date yet?
no, I was hoping. I'm hoping we can get her next Monday. So we'll see. Anyway, yeah, I told her that, and maybe even I told her that there was a lot of confusion around the whole thing about property taxes, and that you and I got to talking, and we got to talking about it with our colleagues in our office, and they're confused about it too. So we thought we'd better get an expert to come and talk to us, and so we don't give out any misinformation. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I worked the whole weekend, so you had family, huh?
Yeah, I've had Stump's family for the whole weekend, so I had people covering stuff for me, but yeah, it was nice. It turned out well. We some of them, it was the first time to the house. We showed them the beach where we go in the morning with Oki. We went out to Blarney Island. Have you ever been there?
No, I've never heard of that. What's Blarney Island?
Well, it's a lot of fun, but it's not the classiest place. I'll say that, but it can be a lot of fun. It is a boating bar that's sitting in the middle of Grass Lake in the chain of lakes.
Oh, right. I've heard right. I've heard you talk about this before.
Yeah.
And you can only get to it by boat, right?
Right. You can only get to it by boat. It's basically, they call it an island, but it's basically there is one little built up patch of grass where there's a helipad. And there's always a helicopter there that does tours and stuff. But it's basically like Porky's. It's like a bar built on stilts, a giant bar built on stilts, sitting in the middle of the lake. And you get to it either by private boat. There's, boat docks all around. There's, always, I don't know, 50, 60, 80 boats there. But they have a bar at the shore called the Port o' Blarney. There's a restaurant bar there, and you can buy tickets on their shuttle pontoon boat that goes back and forth from the island. So anyway, it's we took everybody out there, and it's quite a place for people watching. And there's they have live bands like all day and night, and food and drink and shot girls, and now they even have like the cages with the dancers that were like dressed like butterflies and stuff dancing around. It was pretty funny.
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and,
Carl was over at Beat Kitchen over on Belmont and like Damon, I think they're just
yeah.
And
Right
apparently every Saturday they have a bluegrass. They have a brunch and they feature a bluegrass band.
Oh, huh.
So yeah, I actually some friend that we met when we used to go to Door County lives in Memphis and is a bluegrass artist. So I'm kind of wondering now if he's ever played at the Beat Kitchen, but. Yeah. So speaking of bars and music and whatnot, my book group this week read, can you see this?
The Lager Queen of Minnesota.
Lager Queen of Minnesota. And it's a great summer read, actually. It's my book group, and particularly, I said to Bob, I said, this book is like Fargo without the violence, because it kind of pokes fun at that whole Minnesotan culture. Anyway, it's a good summer read if you're looking for something to do over Labor Day weekend and you need a book. It's an easy read. You can read it in the weekend easy, but a lot of fun. It's a good story about this woman who it's about two sisters, and the one sister, when the dad, they grow up on a farm in Minnesota, and the dad dies and leaves the farm to the one sister so she can open a brewery and start making beer. And then it turns out that the granddaughter of the other sister, the one who didn't get the family farm, um, becomes a brewmaster at the age of 19 and becomes like the family business. So anyway, it's a great story. It's very
Sounds kind of like my clients I've told you about, that he's like, his family owns the oldest winery in Illinois. It's in downstate, and that's been there since the 1800s or whatever. It was first like Belgian monks or whatever that started it, but it's like his aunt and uncle, I believe, that really currently own the farm, but he's the one that became a like brewmaster and a vintner, and and has worked for like City Winery and also a lot of the Lagunitas and Pipeworks and all of that, and he's like one of their. But it's kind of funny because he's the one that's got the expertise now, but he's not really the one that owns or runs the family business.
Huh.
But yeah, sounds similar to that.
Well, so there's another family member that's running the family business, but he's not a brewmaster or whatever, or a vintner or whatever.
Yeah, just other than just working there. But yeah, I mean, he studied this. He's has a chemistry degree and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, and it's actually it's been his actual work. Yeah.
Huh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, but the Fargo thing reminded me of something that happened before the weekend. But are you familiar with Kringle, the pastry?
Of course.
Yeah. So
out of Racine, the Kringles out of Racine.
Yeah. So there's a place I always go to up there, one of the old Kringle bakeries, and all their Kringle are vegan by accident. Well, except for like the cheese ones, but otherwise their Kringle are vegan. So since we were having a lot of company up this weekend, I always go up and pick up Kringle and Racine. So I went up there last week and picked them up. And while I was there, every time we're there is a very nice but unusual girl that works there. And I don't know if some of the Wisconsin people also have that Minnesota accent and that whole sort of like
it's a upper Midwest, Mississippi Valley Midwest thing.
So I don't know if this girl is actually from like Racine area or closer to Minnesota, but she has that sort of accent and not just the accent, but it's kind of like I don't know, like I said, kind of a whole like almost persona or something,
like a demeanor,
yeah, exactly.
No, well, he captures it beautifully in this book that I'm talking about. Yeah, exactly. That's a whole thing. But yeah.
So I was getting the Kringle, I was paying, and then there were near the cash register there was this other pastry. Stump says we had seen it before, but I didn't remember it, and it was this round pastry with like kind of like looked like dollops sort of in the middle of it. And so I said to her, I was like, oh, what's this? And she looked at me kind of like I was crazy. And she was like, well, it's the Seven Sisters. And
you don't know that?
Yeah. And it was like that. It was like, looked at me like I was from a foreign land, which I guess I am. I'm across the border, the state border. But she was like, looked at me like I was kind of nuts. And I was like, oh, is it good? She's like, everybody loves the Seven Sisters. Again, like I was like, what's wrong with you?
That reminds me of a story. There used to be when I had my office over on Wilson Avenue back in the early 2000s, and there was a fella that had he had a little, I guess it was really a taqueria, but he was a chef, and he made, I mean, it wasn't, it was definitely a cut above your typical taqueria, and he always had these very elaborate and exotic ingredients. And we were in there probably 2 or 3 times a week for lunch, and got to the point where we didn't need a menu. He would just say, what do you guys want today? And he would make it for us. I mean, it was great. We just loved it. And but of course, he was a back of the house guy, not a front of the house guy. He was a chef, and I had a good friend who owned a business around the corner on Ravenswood, and I told him about, you can get a really great lunch over there. And so he walked in there one day, and Bill was there, of course, because it was his place. And Bill, he says to Bill, he said, "So what do you got that's good today?" And Bill says, "Well, everything is good. You think I'm going to serve you something that isn't good?"
Yeah, it's probably just the difference of like what that means. Yeah.
Well, right? He said, "What?
Yeah.
What do you mean? What's good today? Everything on the menu is good." So anyway, so Tim got very put out by that and never went back again,
Uh,
which was his loss. But then
yeah.
Bill's business didn't make it because he should have been back of the house and should have had somebody work in front of the house for him.
Yeah, that's often the case.
Right?
Or the other way around. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, so I did ask what it is, and she described it as like a coffee cake with an almond custard or whatever, but it's more like a pastry than a cake, but it's got there's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
6
I
around
know. I know
the
what
inside
Seven
and one
Sisters
inside.
is. My husband
Well,
was
I'm
born
saying
and
this for
raised in
everybody else's
Wisconsin.
benefit. I knew you knew what it was.
My husband was born and raised in
Party
Wisconsin.
pants.
I'm educated.
So it's like it's almond custard in there, and there's some other flavor
Yeah, they
going on.
put dollops of different kinds of jelly on it, right?
Well, there was no jelly. They were all like little pouches of almond custard. So
Oh,
almost that amaretto sort of flavor.
because normally they have different. They put the different flavors. So there'll be like a
Uh,
custard, and there'll be, like a cheese, and there'll be like a strawberry.
but this was the last one left, so I don't know if
Oh,
maybe they also have those too. But
uh-huh.
but she described it as almond, so maybe all of the ones they make are there or almond. I don't know.
So my question is how can they possibly have Kringles that are vegan by accident when the main ingredient in a Kringle is butter?
They don't use butter; they use shortening. And again, think about that. I mean, shortening was more common in the 50s when this place opened than butter was. Yeah.
Well,
Where
so
I grew up,
the
all
best
pies and cakes
Kringles,
were made with Crisco. You know.
ugh, ugh. So they can't possibly be as good as the Kringles over at O&H because those are pure butter, man. They are so good.
Yeah. You can keep those.
So I do have
They've
a
done pretty
story.
well. They've been there like 70 years. So
Well, yeah, I mean, whatever. What can I say? I mean, all of the
it's called Larson, by the way.
all of the good old bakeries in Chicago, they're almost all gone. In fact, yeah, but nobody eats like that. Although now you have Do Right Donuts and Stan's Donuts, and it's like, how is this making a comeback? I don't quite. I mean, they're delicious, obviously, but how is it that all the old bakeries are gone, but now you got Stan's and Do Right and blah blah blah, whatever. Anyway, right? How does that happen?
Out with the old, in with the new.
I guess. I don't know.
Just like in real estate.
Yeah. But I mean,
Um,
gosh, I mean, if I really stopped thinking about it, I can probably think of a dozen bakeries that have gone away in the last 20, 30 years, right?
Stump's aunt was one of the ones visiting this weekend, and she came up on. We brought her up on Friday. It was her first time to the house, but we were having a discussion in the car, and she was talking about all the new stuff over in Greektown, and her late husband was Greek, and so she used to go. They used to go to Greektown a lot, and they had favorite places, which their main place just recently closed. But she was talking about how it's all kind of somewhat complaining of how it's all changed and that like all those places have now gotten kind of run out and it's no longer really Greek town and all that. And it's really sad how that happened. And I was like, well, I'm sure that's what the Italians said when Greek town came in. That was an Italian neighborhood before that. And she kind of lied and said, well, yeah, that's true. So it's like, it's just funny because I hear that all the time about, it's so sad that this building is going away or being torn down or something else moved out. And it's like, that's what they said the time before that, and the time before that, before the building you liked was
Mhm.
built, it took over another one, and that one took over another one, and it's just funny how people see that, I think.
Mhm. Well, right. I mean, change, it's never good, right? Change is always difficult for people. But um, and speaking of change and beer, and this book is all about craft
Age of
brewery.
beer.
Right. And but what was the name? The Golden Ox down on Clybourne, just south of North Avenue. Do you remember the Golden Ox? And they used to have all of those breweries, all those old brewmeisters from Germany that came over. It was a huge, but that was back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, when they had the artisans from Germany that were trained as brewmasters. And
Well, there was the other one up. What was the place on Southport?
That closed in the 90s, I think.
Yeah, that was
Deutsche
really
Neck, Zum Deutsche Neck.
Deutsche Neck, right? Wow, good memory.
Yeah. Well, I had a friend.
You forgot what we talked about last week, but good memory.
Yeah, right. Well, to kind of bring this back around to real estate a little bit, I had it just kind of emphasizes the point of how important it is to have an attorney that's a real estate attorney. Remember, I think we talked about that last week a little bit, didn't we? About how
with the that was on the community office community call.
Oh, was that on the community call? Well, anyway, we had a conversation about, I was supposed to have a closing on Friday. It's a divorce situation, and the divorce attorney is the one that's handling the sale of the real estate for my client. And
is the property on Ashland or a different one?
Yeah, that one on Ashland.
Oh.
And it didn't close because guess what? She didn't have the right zoning certification, and the buyer
which is exactly what I said in that meeting to Jenny in the community call. Like, that's what will happen. Like, it's usually a water cert or a zoning cert that they get wrong or forget, and it doesn't close because of it. Yeah. They can be the best litigation attorney in the city, and if they don't do real estate all day, every day, it'll get messed up. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it just emphasizes how important it is to have. I mean, we'll get it resolved. It'll close eventually, but we might have to wait another. I mean, if she's got to go back down to City Hall and get a new zoning cert, we're going to have to wait another week to close.
And you understand, because that person's probably been working with her on this situation for years and for a long time, and there's a lot involved, but she still should have pulled somebody in from her office or somewhere else to work on that, on the closing.
Well, I think she's a sole practitioner. So, but yeah, exactly. Well, and
I need to bring that up on the call with Jenny.
I'm sure that divorce attorneys handle a lot of real estate closings because, obviously it's part of the settlement of the property, but it's probably, this is a multifamily, and she's probably used to closing single family. And
Well, and I don't know that that's true, because they're all the ones I can think about, because I've handled a lot of divorce situations over the years, and usually it's declared, in the divorce negotiations, if the house gets sold and who's selling it and to whom, and and all of that. But then once it's, once like I as the agent am involved, I'm just selling the home, and usually working with my real estate attorney or a real estate attorney. Usually the divorce attorney isn't really involved in that part, just in the the declaration of how that gets handled.
Oh, I see. Well, and you're talking an attorney that's in a law firm with other attorneys. They turn it over. You mean?
Well, no, not even turned over. They're done once the divorce. It's like the house is going to get sold, and here's how the money gets split. And then I get involved, sell the house, and it's regular process for me with the regular attorneys that I work with, and then it's, the money's getting divided according to how it was determined in the divorce or whatever, if there is a division or whatever. But I don't recollect ever working with the divorce attorney on a sale, even when there was a divorce, involved. That was handled before it ever got to me. You know what I mean?
I'm still thinking about the Kringles made with Crisco.
Well, I don't know if it's Crisco, but it's shortening. But that's.
It sounds horrible. That sounds awful to me.
No, that's what good pie crust, the flaky pie crust, are because.
Well, no, a good flaky pie crust has got part lard and part butter.
I'm telling you, shortening. Mama's little baby loves shortening bread. That's what makes a good
You
pie
sound
crust.
like
You're
you
not from
sound
the
like
South.
you
If you're
sound
from
like
the
a
South,
baby.
you
You
know it's
sound like a
Crisco.
baby boomer, Wes. You're talking like a baby boomer that grew up in the 50s.
No, but I ate the food from the people that grew up in the 50s. It was Crisco. Did you ever
All
see
right.
that?
Well, we don't really have any real topic of conversation today, but I hope if you have something you'd like for us to discuss specifically about real estate, we're always happy. Put it in the chat, and we'll definitely put that on the agenda next week. I'm hoping next week it'll be Molly Phelan talking to us about the new 2020 tax bills coming out. So
well, and more specifically about how Cook County property taxes work, because it's a kind of a mystery. So hopefully it'll be.
Well, there's there's the triennial reassessment. There's the equalization factor, and
sounds exciting. We're
well,
going
you
to make
see
it
a lot
fun.
about it in the newspapers, that's for darn sure. And it certainly is a hot topic that people get very emotional about. So there you go. What do you got coming up this week, Wes? Anything good? Any more family coming to visit?
Yeah, well, kind of. Yeah. We've got friends coming to stay. Later this week, coming up for the weekend again. Well, yeah.
Nice. When am I going to get invited to Beach Park?
You don't need to. You already live on the beach.
Well, that's true. That's true. Hey, that whole thing with the Blue Angels, boy, what a non-event that was.
I wouldn't know. We were in Beach Park.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, I heard, of course, by the time you hear them, they're gone because, they go so fast. But
We
I
were in the
saw,
city when they were rehearsing, though, and we couldn't see them either.
no, you couldn't see them. I could hear them, and I'd run to the window and see if I could see them. And I did catch a glimpse of one of them as it flew by. And then, of course, 2 minutes later, I heard the sound as it had flown by. But yeah, you had to be out somewhere. Well, I guess out on the lake would have been a good place. I saw a lot of boats out on the lake. Would have been a good place. But yeah, it was kind of disappointing. They actually had flown by, did a flyover last summer. And they announced it, but it was a smaller window. They said there'll be, I don't remember the time anymore, but it was like I think it was the Blue Angels. It might not have been the Blue Angels. It might have been one of the other groups, but they said they were going to fly over between like 12 and 12:15. So, be looking for them. And people were out on, this is last summer during COVID. They were doing it as kind of, I don't know, a morale booster for COVID, I guess. And we have a hospital right across the street from us. That's a 3-story building, and everybody from the hospital was out on the roofs, and that was kind of exciting. So because we had that narrow window that we knew we had to be looking for them, and I did see, and I was able to see them last summer, but this summer it was kind of a non-event. So
yeah. Oh well. Next year.
Next year will hopefully be the full Air and Water show, which I haven't been to in probably 30 years, but
it'll be good to know that it's happening.
It'll be good to know that it's happening, right? So anyway.
And you have a front row seat now too.
What's that?
And you have a front row seat now too.
I have a front row seat now, and now you probably saw in the news this morning, the Pfizer vaccine has been gotten full FDA approval, and so that'll hopefully help the vaccination status of folks, because I know that there's been a lot of hesitancy to mandate it because it wasn't FDA approved, but now
Right.
military, now they can mandate it for military and all those folks. So it'll be a good thing, I think. But
well, I hope it makes a difference.
I hope so too. All right, have a good week, and
Thanks, you too.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye.